So, I watched the first two episodes of Willow. It comes as no surprise or shock that it's just a woke mess. An absolute mess. What can I say about Willow? It was boring, the characters were two-dimensional, and they put sexual orientation and identity politics at the forefront instead of an actual plot or story. That's what I took from the first few episodes of Willow that I watched. And that's all I need to say about it. It really is, because we've been through this before with other shows that Disney Plus have done, and everything that these woke directors, writers touch just turns to dog shit. And I know I'm swearing, but it's true. That they pander to a tiny percentage of the population, and then they wonder why these shows bomb and fail time after time. We've seen it constantly, haven't we? Recently we had The Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power. Absolute parody. It was a parody. It was a parody of Lord of the Rings, wasn't it? And unfortunately, the same thing is happening here with Willow. As you can see on the screen right now, this is Rotten Tomatoes scores. Not like they're any kind of authority on anything, but obviously the shills, 84%, 84% to 53% audience score. And I think that kind of just sums it up, doesn't it? Every time the audience, they don't like it, but it's the shills, it's the shill critics pushing this all the time, inflating the scores of these absolute dumpster fire shows that are being pumped out by this woke establishment. We'll go and have a look at a few of the reviews, because these are the characters, and as I love Warwick Davis. He's a great supporting character. He was in Harry Potter. He's in Star Wars, obviously, but he can't carry a show. He can't carry a movie. Not at all. He might be a lovely guy, but he's not a very good actor, and he was acting very, very wooden in the two episodes that I saw. It might improve as the show goes on, but if you go and have a look at the original film, he wasn't particularly good in the original film either. He came across as wooden and awkward in that as well. Well, we'll have a look at the cast and crew, because wow, I mean, this is the same person that was in Falcon and Winter Soldier, token person, just there purely to tick a box, in my opinion. Same with all these characters. Obviously, this one and this one are having a gay relationship in the series, but we knew it was going to happen. Before it even came out, I knew this was going to be a thing, because this is the formula they follow. It's all about identity. It's all about sexual orientation, and the story comes second. And whatever that happens, these projects are always going to fail, aren't they? Because what do people go and watch? Why do people watch these fantasy dramas? It's not to be preached about sexual orientation or identity politics or anything that these woke idiots want to promote. It's escapism, isn't it? And that's why these things fail. I was bored. I was absolutely bored in the first episode. Nothing happened. They had a few bit. The dialogue's awful. It's really bad. And there's nothing that made me interested about any of these characters whatsoever. Nothing. There's nothing that brought me into this world they were trying to build, because they ignored the original movie completely, and they went with their own agenda, as they always do. And whatever they put their fingers on turns to absolute dog shite. We all know, don't we? I don't know what Ron Howard's. He's an executive producer on this. Well, there you go. And obviously Kathleen Turner, she's involved with it then. Yeah. This guy, we had a switch because we've got to show women are empowered, haven't we? So how do we do that? We don't make them interesting characters. We make them wooden, two-dimensional characters that are overpowered. That's how we do it. So obviously they had to have a bait and switch. They had this guy is a prince. He was kidnapped. So now we've got to have the women go and save him. There's nothing wrong with that if it's done right, if the story's great, but it isn't. It's done because it's ticking boxes. We can't have strong, powerful men. We've always got to have strong, powerful women. That's the agenda. That's the agenda in all this. This is identity politics. And we've got all these other different characters in this show. And to be honest with you, it's just box ticking. That's all it is. The only reason, you know from the outset, that the only reason these people are in this show is to tick identity politics boxes. That's it. We'll go and look at some of the reviews. So these are the critic reviews for. Now obviously they're going to be glowing, aren't they? So we'll read a few of them. So we'll pick the first one. Disney Plus's Willow is a spellbinding departure from a tired fantasy series formula. I don't know what they were watching, but they definitely weren't watching the same 2 episodes that I was watching. The Willow series brings back all the charms of the 1988 fantasy movie, but remixes it just enough to satisfy both old fans and new. No, it doesn't. Doesn't at all. Warwick Davis still has a wand from Willow in the wall of his office, encased in a box frame. Yeah, I don't care about that. 34 years after the original film that made Davis a household name, the actor who played the titular protagonist is headed back to the whimsical land of Sorcerer Supreme, at least in this franchise. Willow up good. Disney Plus's Willow series is more spellbinding than it. Oh, I just can't be bothered. I just can't be bothered to read it because it's just dull. Obviously, they're just shilling for something. I'm not even going to read it. But obviously it's been certified fresh. Spellbinding, whatever. It may not be the most necessary sequel, but it's certainly fun. No, it's not. It's not fun at all, it's boring. Roguish and ribald, this fantasy never forgets it's supposed to be fun. It's not fun at all, it's boring. Absolutely boring. If you're one of the die-hard fans, there's every chance this will cast the self-same spell that worked wonders back in 1988. Nope, not for me. At all. In the end, it relies far less on nostalgia, yeah, because it doesn't take you back into the world of Willow. It takes you into this weird world of identity politics and two-dimensional characters. It has nothing to do with the original film at all, or the charm of that original film. It's just boring. That's what happens when you make everything about sexual orientation and skin colour and identity. The characters become boring. If you're a fan of Lord of the Rings, Rings Light, classic fantasy, then Willow has that in spades. Oh dear. Deary me. This new adventure includes many of the same charms and maintains the heart that made so many of us fans all those years ago. It's worth joining Willow on another journey to save the world, even if you may not love every decision made along the way. I don't like any of the decisions made along the way. Oh, we've got somebody that didn't particularly like it. Let's read this one. Willow is a prime example of the potential heartbreak of reviving IP. Disney has enough data to see that their Lucasfilm property has enough fans to warrant a revival, but not enough creativity to understand why exactly. At least there's an honest professional critic out there. Willow is ultimately a rare treat. The fancy answer to Top Gun... No, what? This is nowhere near Top Gun Maverick. Top Gun Maverick did everything correct. It didn't go all woke and start going into identity politics. It just elaborated on the original and improved upon it. In fact, it's a far superior film than the first movie, in my opinion, Top Gun Maverick. Willow, on the other hand, is just boring dumpster fire trash. That's what Willow is. With a tone more akin to The Princess Bride, it manages to take the logic of its fantasy world seriously, while depicting characters with a very modern behaviours and conversations. In other words, they've taken an old IP and made it woke, ruined it, and that's what they've done. So we'll have a look at the audience reviews, because this kind of says it all. They're all 1 stars, half stars, right? Had great potential. Ruby Cruz' modern dialogue is just unbearable to take. She's always using like multiple times, same sentence, just really annoying, to the point. Yeah, this is it. These are the actual people that actually watch the films, not the 1% woke that are being pandered to. So captures none of the original film's magic, just another boilerplate characters that all have an obvious arc they're heading for, just formulaic and lazy. Exactly. Boring, I would add as well. Well, this fantasy period series has really transported me to a different realm, where the main characters sound like modern teenagers and deliver their lines. Yeah, it's kind of what I thought about it as well. And this is where I was, but I managed to get through the first episode. I just couldn't get. I got halfway through the second, and that was it. I was done. And here we have. This could be a bot. This is a great show that even surpasses the original movie. Don't let the homophobes tell you otherwise. So obviously, if people don't like Willow, they're homophobes. It's not that. People are just sick and tired of having this stuff preached 24/7 in things they want to watch, and having these woke idiots get on their soapboxes and preach about things that people just aren't interested in. You've substituted fantasy you've used the platform of Willow to further push your ideology. Don't be shocked and surprised when people turn it off because they don't want to listen to your ideology. So let's have a look at some more of these. This is a modern day sitcom, not medieval fantasy. Does not feel like Willow. Exactly, it doesn't. Lost its charm, not sure about the teen drama sitcom screenplay angle. Who is the target audience again? Modernising dialogue is always a terrible idea for fantasy shows. And the music is awful as well. They do use the Willow theme in the episodes, but the end music is just like this modern trash, like they say here, like sitcom type music at the end, and it just doesn't work. I don't know who this guy is, but obviously he's a shill. Mark G. The first 2 episodes were amazing. Funny, huge in scale. Amazing villains, excellent performances, all the magic of the original and more. It's so fun to see Warwick back in his role. Can't wait to see more. Yeah. Whatever. I mean, they're entitled to their opinion. Obviously, this is subjective. But Disney is wondering why it's failing, why its movies, its TV shows are failing, and why audiences are rejecting what they're making. And the fact is, they're pandering to a tiny, tiny minority of people that don't even watch this stuff. And they wonder why viewership is dropping, because the people that were interested in this sort of stuff, they've alienated by calling them homophobes or bigots. I mean, like this one here, look. Do not listen to the bigoted audience score. that chooses to define this show based on their views on the same-sex couples rather than the story. There is no story. The only thing that you can judge this thing on is the same-sex couples, because that's what's being brought to the front in all of this. This is what's being used to push the narrative, identity politics. So that's what people are going to judge it on, and people will just switch off. It's not because they're same-sex couples, it's because there's no story, and people aren't going to watch a show that's just you promoting your ideology. The two characters being gay does nothing to further the story. They're purely gay because of box ticking in identity politics. That's the only reason they're gay. That's it. I'll look at a few more scores. Audience scores. Yeah, people are saying it, you see. Let's have a look. Right. Yet another corporate produced cookie cutter Disney show that does its best to ruin the source material. Couldn't agree more. Good freaking goodness, Disney. If you really want to flush an IP and 150 million down the toilet, I can think of 100 better ways to do it, yeah. Cost 150 million to make this. It doesn't feel like it. It doesn't feel like it at all. It feels like a very low budget 90s fantasy show, something like Xena, Warrior Princess, or something like Hercules, or something. It doesn't look like they spent 150 million on it, put it that way. This guy here we go again. Woke, kill the fun, exactly. Way too much like teenage sitcom with modern dialogue and humour, as well as the message being in your face in the first 10 minutes. Plus, Mad Morrigan didn't need to be a character assassinated in the first 5 minutes. Come on, yeah. Pretty good so far. Dove is an enjoyable character so far, and it's nice to get back into Simple Fantasy. Seeing Bleak, Mariah Grey all the time. Not 100% sure about some of the characters, like Kit, no. Though I imagine she's going through a personal growth arc. Oh yeah, whatever. Personal growth arc. She hasn't got an arc. She's not even a character. She's two-dimensional. The only thing that says anything about her character is the fact that she's the bestest ever and that she's a lesbian. That's it. There's nothing else to her character. Warwick Davis is a legend, but this show is lazy and cheap. It has a lack of any magic. Another dead on arrival show created by Disney. Shame, shame, shame. Lame, just lame, and disappointing. Everything has to have a woke message in it. I mean, the first 2 episodes of The Rings of Power were so much better than this, I must be honest. That's horrific. Such a mess, yet so predictable, Disney. Girls sword fighting and boys acting weak and stupid. That's exactly right. I was saying to my partner, I was saying they're going to make the white guy the stupid bumbling fool, and they're going to make all the women overpowered Mary Sues that are the bestest ever. And that's exactly what happens in this show. So I think we're back to the original reviews I was really looking at. Yeah, I was like that. So is anybody else that actually likes this? So here we go. Do not listen to the bigoted audience score. I've read this before, but this is more. It elaborates more. Do not listen to the bigoted audience score. So if you don't like a show, then you're bigoted. And this is why they're losing people. This is why that Andor didn't have many viewers. I loved Andor. I thought Andor was amazing. People are saying it's not Star Wars. I think people just think Star Wars is just Luke Skywalker, Darth Vader, Obi-Wan Kenobi, lightsabers, space battles, and all that kind of stuff. Andor was trying to do something different. It was showing how the rebellion formed and a different side to Star Wars. The human tragedy, the consequences of a rebellion. That's what it was trying to show. But what hurt Andor wasn't its storytelling, or that it was woke in any way, because I don't think it was. What hurt it was Disney alienating Star Wars fans. That's what happened to Andor. They've berated the Star Wars audience, so when they produce a show that's really good, and there's no audience there for it, who do you blame? It's obviously Disney, because Disney did this to the audience, didn't they? They called them bigots because they didn't like the sequel trilogy. I hate the sequel trilogy. I think it's a dumpster fire of fail, and I hope they can retcon it or just get rid of it. I don't think they will. I think it's done now. The fact that they didn't... I'm going on a tangent in this, but I'm trying to get lots of things out. So, the fact they didn't have the three main characters back again, Luke, Leia and Han, in any of those films was an absolute tragedy and a missed opportunity. And when Carrie Fisher died, it was an opportunity they could never get back again. And I think that really put a lot of the fans' noses out of joint, the die-hard fans out of joint. And The Rise of Skywalker was just awful. I watched them all the other day, actually. The Star Wars films, the sequels, and they're just awful. And that's what happens. That's what happens when these woke people get their hands on these properties. They just don't... They hire people that have no love for the content that they're handling. That's the trouble. And I think it's the same with Willow here. And I've got to say, back in the day, Willow, the movie, wasn't my favourite film, fantasy film, anyway. I think that's always going to be Krull. If you've never seen Krull, go and watch it. It's an amazing film. People accuse it of being a Star Wars rip-off, and it kind of is, but it's a Star Wars rip-off done really, really well. Anyway, I digress. Let's get back into this again. Only one episode in, but so far it feels like a cheesy medieval times series. Then throw in a rainbow unicorn princess and a bunch of other very cliche, poorly written characters, dialogue. Maybe it will get better. However, if this is what you put out as the premiere episode, the chances aren't great. Exactly. Here we've got another Andrew B. Does a great job of honouring the original, and the young cast is shockingly great. Not just YA nonsense. Nah, I don't agree with that. It's a load of rubbish. Anyway, Willow. A summary. I won't be watching any more of it. I won't. Depending how well this video does, if people want me to review the whole series, I will. But it was a slog. It was a slog to get through those first two episodes, and I didn't even make it to the end of the second episode because it was so boring. I like people have been saying here, I don't know who the target audience is, but it's not me, and I watched the original film. It's not me. The target audience isn't me. Like I said, these woke people are aiming for such a tiny minority in the population that find this woke rubbish fantastic that everybody else just switches it off because they're not interested. And unfortunately, I think Willow is going to be another flop on Disney's hands. So, yeah. This is Agent 117 signing off.